Hi there, it's Sam from Pootles.co.uk. Thank you very much for joining me today. Today's project is a storage solution, and it's to how to store your Stampin' Right markers. Now you can buy them certain colours singly, you can buy them in the packs of 10 in the colour collection, or the 5s if they're the in colours, which are these ones here. Or if you could buy them all in one go, you can get them in the Stampin' Up storage caddy, which if I pop it open you can see there's little dividers in there, and there's all of the colours here as well. But you can't buy that storage caddy on its own, which means then therefore if you are buying in packs of 10 you can't end up with that unless maybe you joined a marker club, which is something I'm thinking of starting, but depending on British feedback. But how do you store them? Because you need to store your pens horizontally because they're filled with ink and they're double-ended, so if you stored them that way the ink would all drop down to the bottom and the other end wouldn't work. So I've got a solution for you, and there are 5, if I tip this up, there are 5 pyramids, I suppose you'd call them, in there, so that each will hold one full collection, and obviously there's only 8 in the neutrals because there isn't a white or a vanilla. So you can slowly build this up, but I've also set it not just with the paper that slides on and off, so you can change it as your room layout is, but also I've offset them. Because actually if this was sat on your desk, if I tilt it to the kind of angle that I'm looking at it, if they were all sat over the top of each other you wouldn't see the colours underneath, so that it's offset slightly. So I'm going to show you how to make one of them and then put all 5 together, because you don't want to watch me make 5. So let me pop that right out of the way. And so there isn't shadow. You need a piece of cardstock that measures 7 1/4 inches by 7 1/4 inches, which is 18.5 by 18.5 centimetres. And you would obviously need 5 of those, but if you're slowly building your collection, 1 at a time is fine. So obviously it doesn't matter which way round you line it up, but you score it 2 1/4 inches, 4 1/2 and 6 3/4 of an inch, which is 5 1/2, 11 and 16.5 centimetres. And then keeping this here, you need to put a little notch in, because obviously you're going to make a triangle, and you put your notch in at 3 3/8 of an inch, which is 8.3 centimetres. So just a little notch, because that's kind of a guide really rather than anything. And then turning it so your notch is on the left hand side, so over here, you then come along and score it at 2 inches, which is 5 centimetres. So that's that part done. While I've got the scoring tool out, I'm going to grab my designer series paper, because you score that to fit round it. This measures 5 by 12 inches. And so with the long side at the top, sorry, that's 12.5 by 30 centimetres. So with the long side at the top, you score it at 1 1/8 of an inch, 3 1/2 inches, 8 inches, and 10 3/8 of an inch, which is 4, 10, 21 and 27 centimetres. But don't worry about that, this is only if you've made all 5 and you're storing your pens. I'm going to move that out of the way, I'm going to move this bit out of the way and come back to my box. And where we put the notch, we're going to score a diagonal line from there down to this part. So it's just going to be a short diagonal line. So you need a sturdy ruler. I love my steel rule, which technically is my husband's. And you just score a line down to create a triangle. So that's, I tipped that, there we go. So you can see that now. So you're just scoring either side to make your triangle. Move those out of the way and grab my bone folder. And just fold and burnish. And do burnish quite well the straight lines. Ignore the diagonal one for the diagonal ones for the moment. So just your straight lines. And this is Naturals Ivory cardstock, which is a great cardstock for building boxes that are going to be holding heavyweight things. The first one I did, if I just tip that down, that's Naturals White, but this is Naturals Ivory. So the bits you need to remove, the big square to the left, the big square to the right, and that bit there as well. So essentially you're just leaving yourself with the middle part that you've put your score lines into. So those bits done, and then your score lines, come and fold those, the diagonal score lines I should say, and burnish those as well. And we need to put some sticky strip, because this is all going to close up in this fashion but there is a particular way, or a particular sequence, I should say, that you put your sticky strip on, and, or rather you stick the box down with. So we need some along this part here, which has got the narrow bit. So that's going to be our closure. So a piece there. And snip it off. And then we need it here and here as well, so either side of this diagonal line, but again close to the score line. And you could use liquid glue if you're not confident about folding up box sides and getting it in the right place straight away. Don't stick it to your fingernails. But yeah, you could use liquid glue. You peel off all 3 parts, and you can see I've overlapped ever so slightly there, so you just fold the sticky strip back in on itself and it will stick to itself, and then it won't stick over. And this part here, and oh look, it's all static and it's sticking to me. So the sequence that you want to fold up, so we've got our score line here with some sticky strip, and then we've got a triangle that's close to it. That one needs to come up first, and you just literally line it up. So that one is over first. Then you need to fold this one, the long straight bit in. It won't really stick to anything. So we're not trying to stick it down to here just at the moment, we're sticking our other triangular diagonal bit, yes, that's the right word. Line that one up, so it's still loose here, you still see that's loose, and then you line up, and I'm resting it on the worktop just because it's easier for me. You line all of that up, and that is the triangle closed. But the reason that it's folded in the order that I did it is so that you get a nice smooth finish here, otherwise it was just, when I was making the prototypes, it was just too bulky and it wasn't very good. So that essentially is the box. So if I grab 10 of these, you can see that 4 lie at the bottom, 3 sit on the top of those, 2 on the top of that, and 1 on top of there. And if I was a cheerleader, if we had cheerleaders in the UK, that would have been a classic pyramid. So you can see that that sits beautifully in the triangle formation. Let me just pop those out of the way again for a second. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and I spent forever trying to work out which way did I want them round, did I want them like that, did I want it to sit like that, and I decided that this sort of a flatter finish would work best of all. So 3 on the bottom and then 2 more on top. So to stick it down, basically I've just used a piece that was left over from when I cut the original box, because you do need 5, you do need a whole piece of cardstock, but you do get a bit left, you know, quite a bit left over. So basically this measures 6 by 4, but it doesn't really matter whether it's, you know, smaller, wider or anything like that, just so long as it is, the whole of it is less than those 3 sat together. So 6 by 4 was a great size for me. This is where you want to use your liquid glue and maybe some grid paper if you're particular about lining things up, but 1 in the middle and then some either side. And so you've got, you obviously can't see it at that angle, I've got all of the holes facing towards me, and you just line it all up. Put your fingers inside to push down, or a bone folder or a ruler or something like that. Let me get a long, oh, here we go, a ruler. I just push that so it's on camera. So I'm just going to push down with my ruler just to make sure that glue is beautifully stuck. And then these ones, you just make sure your seam is underneath. We're going to set those, but we're going to offset them back a little bit. So if I bring in my original, you can see it's set back a little way, and that's so that, as I said before, the pens, you're not looking over the top at all 50 all in one go. You've got a little bit of, you've got some room to be able to see all of the different ones, so it doesn't really matter how far back. I would say maybe 1 inch, 2.5 centimetres, and then liquid glue, but just sort of on the first 2/3, not all the way. squish it in, and that will set itself nicely. And I'll do the other one. And squish that one in as well, and they will all nestle together beautifully. Isn't that clever? I'm really pleased with that. I was very excited when I came up with that. I did spend a long time trying to think of a storage solution for pens. But you know, this was what I came up with in the end. So now the DSP, like I say, I've left it. I haven't stuck the DSP onto this. I've kept it so that it will slide on and off. But you know, if you're like me, you're a bit flighty and you change your decor or your favourite colours. This is Gingham Garden because I just think it's really rather beautiful. And it just sits over the top, wraps around, and that is it. So I've done all of the measurements for you. To hold it in place, I've got some more of the cotton trim, which I love. I think this is such a beautiful ribbon. And when you throw it at yourself, don't throw it at yourself, that's not a good idea. And I'm putting it underneath, but over the top. That's probably far too much ribbon, but you know, I'm going to try and tie a bow. Or tie my hands in knots. And you obviously, you know, you decorate it how you want, but I deliberately kept it flat on the top so that you know, once you've got your pens in there, it actually is really quite sturdy, and you could even put a, you know, a pen pot or something else on top. Lost my scissors now. So there we go, and that paper will slide perfectly to fit. And then you grab your pens, you pinch them out of another one, and they will all fit in. So it's obviously with the triangle it's upside down. It's 1, then 2, then 3, and then the 4 on the top. And same as before, let me grab another 10 from here. You can still see them poking out from underneath. So the colours aren't being blocked. So you can see these and you can also see those, obviously with less shadow than I'm showing today because it's a slightly cloudy day. I hope summer's on its way soon. But I hope that's a good storage solution for you, particularly if you haven't got the storage caddy or if you've been slowly collecting your markers. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. Bye.